attacked by friends I loved by saying I'm not a feminist, and judged saying I want kids, feeling hurt and confused. Well, that's too bad. Really. I'm very sorry to hear that, because the idea that you would be judged for saying that you want kids it's a kind of radical insanity as far as I'm concerned. The first thing I would suspect is that you're probably rather young. I could be wrong about this, but we do everything we can to delude 19, 20, 21-year-old women into thinking that there's something inappropriately patriarchal and subordinate about wanting children. And so many young women are firmly convinced that the last thing they want is to have children. And they're not disabused of that foolish notion by people who should be mentoring them properly. Because the truth of the matter is the vast majority of women start to realize in their late 20s and early 30s that there isn't anything more important to them than having a family. And that's how it should be. That doesn't mean that their careers aren't important or that career isn't important. It means that family is more important. And if you look at, I think it was the Pew Research Foundation that recently conducted a poll looking at what Americans felt brought the most meaning to their life and what was most important. And I believe it was 76% of respondents indicated that it was family. And family is more important than career. And, I say that as someone who's a very gratifying and meaningful career. I've done many things. I've been a professor and a clinical psychologist and an author and a businessman. And I've been involved in an extraordinary number of high quality career level pursuits, as well as jobs. And I found my fair share of gratification in those because I like to work. I'm an industrious person. But it's certainly the case that for me, my marriage and my kids have been of paramount importance, and that actually becomes more true as I get older and hopefully wiser. And so the first thing you need to do is stop feeling guilty about it. Like, you're in the right. You want to have kids, more power to you. And if people are telling you that, you shouldn't bring kids into a planet like this, or that, you're adding to the carbon footprint of the world, you can invite them politely to step themselves off and allow some space for some new life if they're that concerned about it. It's cruel to speak to women in that manner, as far as I'm concerned, to leap to the conclusion that adding an additional soul to the world is going to be somehow harmful, when the possibility is very high that if you have a child and you raise them carefully, that they're going to have a net positive impact on the world, and that impact could be incalculably large. And so there's no excuse whatsoever except a kind of vicious, self-righteous malevolence that would drive people, and maybe jealousy, that would drive people to insult and belittle a woman who wants to have children. And, the other thing you have to realize is that it's not like you're alone. Every single one of your ancestresses going back 3.5 billion years had children. And that's the way it needs to be and the way it should be. And it's a source of extraordinarily deep meaning in life. Now, if you're going to have children, then you have the responsibility to do it responsibly, and to make it a priority and to treat it as if it's important. But you need to find some new friends, I would say, because these friends aren't your friends if they're belittling your admirable desire to do what everyone who's participated in the process of continuing life has done since the beginning of time. And anyone who's anti-child is confused so deeply that that confusion will definitely cause themselves a tremendous amount of trouble in their own lives. And the only thing that you can hope for people who are that confused is that they sort it out and decide what's important before they're too old to make the right decision. And the right decision is almost inevitably having children. I've met people who haven't, and I would say it's not easy for them to fill the void in their life. And these are often people who've had high-powered careers and have been very successful and admirable people in many regards. But I'll tell you, as you get older, that space that your family should occupy becomes more and more difficult to fill. You need, as a person who's getting older, well, first of all, as a younger person, you need that spark of life and responsibility that having a small child brings to you. You require that. It matures you, because as soon as you have a child, then you're no longer the most important thing in the world. And you're still sadly immature if you're the most important thing in the world. It's very difficult to get over that without having a child. And then you need that life and responsibility that the child provides, to bring out the best in you, to grow you up and to make you awake and aware, like you might be on behalf of someone who's fragile and needs your support and development. And then as you get older, well, you need to see life continue to manifest itself in the possibility of youth and the adventure that young people go on when they start a family. You need to see that continuity, and it helps ground you in the world and gives you hope for not only for your future, but for the future itself. And then with regards to saying that you're not a feminist, I guess probably what I would recommend there is just stop saying that. All it sounds to me like is that it gets you in trouble. I mean, I think what you mean, given the way that you wrote your question, is that because you have some traditional ideas about family, it's difficult for you to reconcile that with the rhetoric of modern feminism. And that's perfectly understandable, because the one group that modern feminists seem to be particularly antipathetic towards is mothers, which is really quite remarkable achievement given that they're supposed to be on the side of women. But I would say, if you want kids, you talk to people who are positively inclined to your motivation and ambition, and you don't discuss it with people who are inclined to put you down and denigrate that, because they're deceiving themselves, they're acting cruelly, and they're doing no one any favors, least of all themselves, and certainly not you. So you carefully find people who are willing to support you in your desire, and more power to you as far as I'm concerned. So it's a very courageous thing to bring a child into the world, and then it's a very responsible thing to do it properly. And you can't grow up. You won't grow up and take your place in the world properly until you do that. And it's certainly possible too that the people that are attacking you are even unwilling to come to terms with their own internal desires. And that would be my guess. They're denying something that they regard as inappropriately subordinate, as I said, for ideological reasons, that to have a child is to damage the world. That would be one part of it. Or to subordinate yourself to the oppressive patriarchy. That would be another part of it. And that no alert and woke woman would dare to have that as an ambition. But that's so shallow and so superficial, all of that, and so self-damaging, because there isn't that many things that you have to do in life that will sustain you in life in a necessary manner. And having a family is definitely one of those. It's maybe half of your life. It might be more than that, but it's definitely at least half your life. You figure intimate relationship, that's a big part of your life. Your career and the useful things and productive things that you do outside, that's another part. But fundamentally, it's family.